Hey, what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to get hit with the truth. So today we are doing the what's next on former two-time light heavyweight world title challenger Anthony Yarde from the United Kingdom, as he stayed busy, I believe at the end of January or early February, and got a knockout victory. So now, before we get into that, if you could smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel, I really do appreciate any and all support that I can get as I continue to build my channel here. So, you know, Anthony Yarde, one of my favorite guys in boxing. I really enjoy watching Anthony Yarde fight. You know, you got his second consecutive knockout victory as he stayed busy. And now the big question is, what's next for Anthony Yarde following that win? So Anthony Yarde is highly ranked in a couple governing bodies. I think he's number 3 in the WBC, number 4 in the WBA. And with this being the year of Undisputed, where Bivol's fighting Beterbiev, I think Anthony Yarde needs to try to get in position for, you know, for a world title. But let's run through the top 10 and see what possibly could be next for Anthony Yarde. So first, you know, Arthur Beterbiev, not likely going to happen. You know, not going to happen. Beterbiev's going to fight Dimitri Bivol for Undisputed in June. And the winner of that fight is either going to fight Canelo Alvarez, if Canelo wants to move up to 175, or the winner is going to make a mandatory against Joshua Buatsi. Because Buatsi is the #1 ranked contender in 3 of the 4 governing bodies. So he's next for, he's getting the title shot next. There's just no other way and option. It's going to be Beterbiev versus Beterbiev or Bivol versus Buatsi, or them versus Canelo. So Anthony Yarde is not going to see the winner of that fight. In my opinion, he's not going to get the winner of that fight this year or next. So that's off the table. Then we look at Callum Smith, the former super middleweight champ. He's coming off that loss to Arthur Beterbiev. I honestly don't know if Callum Smith is even going to fight again. He's definitely contemplating retirement. But I also think that another option would be cruiserweight for him to move up. But if not, does he really want to come back to 175 after a knockout loss and take on a big-time puncher and fighter in Anthony Yarde? I'm not seeing it. So I got to lean towards the no. I do not see this fight being a possibility for Anthony Yarde. Then there's Alexander Votzik. Now, this is interesting. Would Anthony Yarde risk his status in each of the governing bodies to take on a big fight against Alexander Votzik? Anthony Yarde might have balls enough to do that. Votzik, the former champ, is in position, is trying to put himself in position for a world title shot, and he just came back, and he's 3-0 since he came back out of retirement. And I think him and Anthony Yarde would be fucking great. But that's a risky fight for Anthony Yarde. But if Anthony Yarde were to win, it would be huge for him. But would he take that fight? I think he would at least consider it, and I do think it could be a possibility. Then there's Richard Rivera. Another one I would like to see. I think that's a fan-friendly fight right there. Richard Rivera is a tough motherfucker who fought Badu Jack tough and lost a split decision to him in 2022. So Richard Rivera's been undefeated since he's moved down to light heavyweight, and he might be a good solid opponent for an Anthony Yarde, and a fun fight right there. Then there's Michael Eifert. Well, if Michael Eifert wanted to reaffirm his IBF mandatory shot, you know, Anthony Yarde is sitting down there, I think, at like number 7 or something like that, or 8 in the IBF. Anthony Yarde might go after a fight like this, but Michael Eifert would want to have it, you know. And I'm not sure after we haven't heard anything on him being in line for the world title or being the mandatory challenger still. So it's interesting. I don't see that one, but it could be a possibility. Then there's Joshua Buatsi. Now, this one is a way outside chance, and I only think it's an outside chance if Canelo fights the winner of Beterbiev and Bivol, because then Buatsi wouldn't get his title shot until next year in 2025. So maybe Buatsi says fuck it and fights Anthony Yarde instead in an all UK battle. But man, that's taking a risk when Buatsi has a title shot at 3 belts locked up for himself already. So I gotta lean towards the no on this one. I don't think Buatsi and Yarde is next. Then there's Jean Pascal. It'd be up to Pascal, but I think Anthony Yarde would take this fight in a heartbeat because Pascal's a former 2-time champ. Yarde would make it a point to go for the knockout, and I think it'd be an interesting fight. I really do. So I would love to see it. I gotta lean towards the less likely, but it's not to say that that fight's impossible and couldn't happen, because Pascal has surprises before, coming back and fighting somebody that you don't expect him to beat, and then he either beats him or you know, or doesn't, but he is always willing to fight the top guys. And then there's Vasily Wojciechowski. He definitely a possibility since he beat Dilmarad last year, Sadabaltiev, since he beat him. I definitely think he could be an option. He's undefeated. Yarde wants to add more names to his list, so I can see that. But then the another big option, in my opinion, is Dan Aziz. I think Dan Aziz makes a lot of sense. It's an all-UK battle. Aziz is coming off of a loss to Buatsi, and it's a fight that probably easily could be made, and why not? You know, it would be up to Dan Aziz, but I think the fight makes sense. So what do I think Yarde's going to do next? I really hope he fights somebody in the top 10. And I think Dan Aziz is probably the most makeable in terms of beatable, plus it's a big fight for the UK. And I don't think Anthony Yarde is going to want to risk too much before a fight at some point with the eventual better be a Bivol winner or for a world title. But I think Anthony Yarde might have to just take a risk and say fuck it, because he might not have a choice but to fight a big name guy. And I could see Anthony Yarde signing on the dotted line to take on what's his name? To take on Alexander Volcik. I could see that fight. So we'll see what happens. But that's it. That's what I got. That's my what's next on Anthony Yarde, the former 2-time light heavyweight title challenger, following a Stay Busy TKO victory. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel. I appreciate any and all support. This is True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.